All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on a little quirk of the human mind that pretty much runs the show without us even realizing it. We're talking about confirmation bias. You know the feeling, right? You're scrolling through your feed, or maybe you're deep in some online debate, and it just seems like every single thing you see, every article, every comment, just proves you were right all along. Well, I'm here to tell you, you're not imagining it. That feeling is exactly what we're going to unpack today. So, what is this thing exactly? Well, to put it simply, it's our brain's natural tendency to just cherry-pick reality. We are all hardwired to search for and give way more importance to any piece of information that backs up what we already believe. And at the same time, we get really good at ignoring or explaining away anything that might challenge our worldview. Okay, let's dig in. It's so important to get this up front. This is not some kind of character flaw. It's not about being stubborn or closed-minded on purpose. Think of it more like a bug in our mental software that we all come pre-installed with.
I absolutely love this way of thinking about it. Just imagine you have a tiny yes man living in your head. And every time you have an opinion, this little guy's job is to run around, find evidence, and whisper in your ear, "See, you were right. Here's even more proof." All while he's conveniently shredding any mail that suggests you might, just might, be wrong.
So how does this internal yes man actually operate? Well, he's got a few tricks up his sleeve. Confirmation bias doesn't just work in one way. It actually messes with our thinking process in three really distinct ways. Let's break them down.
First up is the bias search. You see, we don't go looking for information like a neutral scientist. Nope. We go looking for it like a lawyer building a case for a client they already know is guilty. We hunt for the evidence that proves our point. Just think about how we ask questions. If I ask you, "Are you happy with your social life?" your brain immediately starts scanning for memories of fun parties and good times. But if I ask, "Are you unhappy with your social life?" suddenly your brain is thinking about all those nights you spent home alone. Same person, same life, but a different question leads to a totally different answer.
Okay, second, even when we're all staring at the exact same piece of evidence, we see totally different things. The perfect example of this is a famous Stanford study on the death penalty. They took two groups of people, one group was for it, the other was against it, and they gave both groups the exact same set of studies with mixed results. So, what happened? You might think they'd meet in the middle, right? Wrong. Both groups walked away even more convinced they were right from the start. They'd hold up the evidence that supported them and say, "See, brilliant research," and then point to the opposing evidence and say, "Well, this is obviously flawed." It's a wild phenomenon called attitude polarization. And the third way it gets us is through biased memory. You could just call it selective memory. Check out this experiment. Researchers had people read a story about a woman named Jane who had all sorts of personality traits. Sometimes she was outgoing, other times she was quiet. Then they asked one group to decide if she'd be a good librarian. Suddenly, those people could only seem to remember all the times Jane was introverted and thoughtful. But when they asked another group if she'd be a good real estate agent, magically they remembered all the examples of her being extroverted and chatty. It just goes to show you, our memory isn't some perfect video recording. It's more like a story we're constantly editing to fit the narrative we need in the moment. Now, let's actually see this bias in action. There's this brilliant little experiment that can trap almost anyone using just 3 simple numbers. It shows just how deep our instinct to confirm, rather than question, really goes. Okay, you can play along with this one right now. I'm going to give you a sequence of 3 numbers. 2, 4, 6. These numbers follow a secret rule, and your job is to figure it out. Now, almost everyone's first thought is, the rule is add 2 each time. So to test that, you'd probably suggest a sequence like, 8, 10, 12. And I'd say, yes, that fits the rule. So now you're feeling pretty confident, right? But here's the trap. You only tried to confirm your theory. You never tried to break it. You never tested a sequence like 1, 2, 3, or 5, 10, 15. If you had, I would have told you they also fit the rule. Because the real rule was just any 3 numbers in increasing order. See? We are just programmed to look for proof that we're right, not proof that we're wrong. But this isn't just a fun little brain teaser. This mental shortcut has huge, and I mean huge, real-world consequences. It shapes everything from our social media feeds to our financial decisions and even our justice system. Let's start with social media. The algorithms on these platforms are designed to figure out what you believe, what you like, and then just feed you more and more of it. They literally build you your own personal echo chamber. It's not some big conspiracy, it's just confirmation bias, supercharged by technology. Then you've got finance, where this bias can be absolutely devastating. An investor gets it in their head that a certain stock is a surefire winner. So what do? They go out and find every article, every analyst report that says they're a genius, and they completely ignore all the warning signs. That leads to overconfidence and, way too often, to losing a lot of money.
The stakes get even higher when you talk about medicine. A doctor might see a patient, form a quick idea about what's wrong, and then subconsciously start looking only for the symptoms that confirm that first guess. And in doing that, they might completely miss the clues pointing to the real and maybe very different diagnosis.
And in law enforcement, it has a name: tunnel vision. An investigator might identify a suspect early on in a case and then become so focused on proving that person's guilt that they only look for evidence that confirms it, while ignoring or dismissing anything that might point to their innocence. And tragically, this has been a major factor in numerous wrongful convictions.
So, what do we do about it? Well, the first and biggest step is just being aware that our brains do this. And it might help to know this isn't some new problem created by the internet. People have been warning us about this for a very, very long time.
I mean, just look at this. The philosopher Francis Bacon absolutely nailed it all the way back in 1620. He wrote that once the human mind adopts an opinion, it draws all things else to support and agree with it. It's just incredible. The stuff our cognitive scientists are proving with brain scans today, he figured out just by paying attention 400 years ago.
And here's what might be the most important takeaway of all. This has nothing to do with how smart you are. In fact, sometimes being smarter can make the bias even worse. Why? Because really intelligent people are often just better at coming up with clever arguments and complex reasons to defend beliefs they arrived at for reasons that had nothing to do with logic in the first place. So I want to leave you with a question. Now that you know you have an internal yes man, now that you know your brain is literally designed to defend your beliefs, not to find the truth, what is one belief you hold really strongly that you'd be willing to genuinely question today? What would it look like to go out and actively look for the single best argument against your own position? Because that's where the real thinking starts. The goal isn't always to be right, sometimes it's just to get a little bit closer to the truth.